Hey, so we got Bruce Timm on today's podcast. I don't know if you know who he is, but if you watched any DC animated show as a child in the 90s,
you know.
He's pretty much responsible for what that looked like.
Exactly.
But anyway, before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by the people over at Loot Crate.
Yep, it's the subscription box for the geek, gamer, and nerd in all of us. For less than $20 a month, you can get 6 to 8 items of gamer and pop culture licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, and unique one-of-a-kind items.
Make sure to head over to lootcrate.com/ETC, enter code ETC, and that'll save you $3 on any new subscription. This month, Loot Crate brings you the Cyber Revolution with an assortment of cool, tech-themed collectibles.
They're featuring exclusive items from Terminator Genesis, Borderlands 2, and more, including an exclusive t-shirt that you won't find anywhere else.
Now, you only have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific each month to subscribe to receive that month's crate. So go to lootcrate.com/ETC, enter code ETC, and then you'll save $3 on your new subscription today. Do it!
What's up, guys? This week we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Bruce Timm. How are you today?
Good, how are you guys?
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Right
So you've been in the sort of animation game for quite a while now. I think my first introduction to you was Batman the Animated Series, which popped up at a very pivotal time in my childhood where Batman was all of a sudden cool again, thanks to Tim Burton. So, and then from there, you've gone on to make a bunch of other shows within the DC animated universe.
And we just watched Gods and Monsters Chronicles today. We saw the movie a couple weeks back. The Chronicles episodes are fantastic.
Awesome.
I love the style of it, and that like they kind of like I said flips the classic superheroes.
Extremely violent.
Yeah.
Yeah, at times. At times.
We were watching it. We were just
there
like,
are some chainsaws.
oh my god.
This is intense.
So let's start off with a Justice League Gods and Monsters question from Who Jackie92. Justice League Gods and Monsters sounds really interesting, especially for a longtime Tim fan like me. Is it a wholly original idea, or did you take inspiration from something?
It is technically a wholly original idea. It's not really inspired by any specific comic. I mean, DC has a long history of doing what they used to call imaginary stories, and then about 10 years ago, they had a big success with a comic called Gotham by Gaslight, which was a Batman comic set like in the Victorian era. Okay. And so they kind of turned that into a whole line of comics called Elseworlds, which were all these like weird alternate universe takes on existing DC characters. So I probably had that in the back of my head. But I was kind of inspired by a couple years ago when they did the New 52. DC did their big reboot of the entire line, and I kept thinking about how back in the late 50s when they brought back Flash and Green Lantern from the Golden Age, they basically kept the name and the gimmick and they threw everything else out. And they reinvented the characters, they gave them new costumes, new powers, new alter egos, everything. And I was thinking, wow, when they're doing the New 52, I thought, wow, wonder if they're going to go that far with like the big three. And of course, they really didn't. But so it got me thinking about it. It's like, okay, yeah, if I was going to do that, if I was going to like basically keep the name and throw everything else out, what would I do? So I kind of came up with this concept, and there we go.
There does seem to be sort of like the biggest change aside from the look is kind of it is significantly darker than a lot of the other DC animated stuff I've seen, especially like the sort of moral code of the heroes is a little more loose than the traditional versions.
Yeah, I mean, I know dark is the first word that comes into a lot of people's heads, but I didn't specifically set out to make like a dark Justice League, show. It's just, I've always kind of gravitated towards more adult-oriented storytelling. I mean, even Batman and Batman the Animated Series was, I mean, we were kind of known for that. That's one of the things that helped us, get us on the map, was the fact that the show was definitely for kids, but grown-ups could watch it and get something out of it too. So I've always kind of like leaned towards that. I want to make a show that I myself would enjoy watching.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, is when it came out, it was like, especially for us at a time when coming into being a teenager and stuff like that, where it was kind of not cool to watch kids cartoons show anymore.
Right.
But here's this Batman the Animated Series that comes out and makes it cool again, and makes it kind of more of a drama, and it was just like, I think that's like kind of the perfect age group. It's right in the middle for both people. So
the word they use in the industry is it's aspirational.
Oh, great.
It's like it's like a little kid can watch it and go, hey, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. It's like my characters don't have to be stupid and silly. I can actually enjoy this, deeper storytelling. So with Justice League Gods and Monsters, it wasn't all, like I said, it wasn't all about just being dark. And as for their moral code, I mean, that's the thing. When you're working with the traditional Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, there are kind of set rules that DC has in place that, you know, anytime we try to push them a little bit outside their box, DC will push back and say, oh, no, Superman would never do that. Batman, you know, he can't do that because of yada, yada, yada. And a couple years ago, when the Man of Steel movie came out, I remember that scene at the end. Big spoiler alert.
If they haven't seen it yet, I'm sure
that scene at the end when Superman famously kills General Zod, people are like all freaking out about it. It's like, oh, Superman would never do that. He would find another way, all this stuff. And I didn't have a problem with it. You know, in fact, when we did the Superman Doomsday movie about 10 years ago, that's exactly how I was going to have Superman get rid of Doomsday. I was going to have him break his neck, and DC said, oh, no, you can't do that. So my own personal philosophy about superheroes is that sometimes I think these kind of rules they have set in place that any guy who wears tights is not allowed to kill the bad guy. That's kind of like an outdated idea to me. That's like something that was, you know, implemented back in the 40s. I mean, Batman and Superman, when they first came on the scene, I mean, they were killing villains pretty much left and right.
Yeah, Batman had a gun.
He had a gun. He had a gun.
Yeah.
You know, Superman used to throw villains off buildings and stuff like all the time. So, and I understand why they pulled it back and, you know, made it more kid-friendly. You know, it was really more for their parents.
Code, right?
Well, that came along later. That was actually in the 50s, but that's when things got really bad. But in this modern age, I mean, especially with all the movies that are coming out, like the Zack Snyder movies and all the Marvel movies, I think people are kind of a little bit more accustomed to superheroes kind of not being, you know, I kind of feel like these rules about this code against not killing is kind of an outdated idea. So, like I said, I don't really have a problem with it. It's not that I wanted to make these guys bloodthirsty, you know, jerks. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, if the situation calls for it, yeah, they can cross that line. I don't have a problem. So, but yeah, they're definitely designed to be radically different than their traditional counterparts.
Well, for sure. And in one of the episodes, this will be airing after the release, but in one of the episodes, it's a very emotionally tolling or taxing kind of scene. So they're not just like willy-nilly going out and destroying people.
Yeah,
but
the Superman one, I mean,
It made sense.
Yeah.
It made sense. I mean, here's the thing. That one was actually a direct response to the Man of Steel episode because I remember, when we were plotting these stories, I was like, okay, these are all designed to introduce the characters before the movie comes out. We want to, in a short period of time, showcase these characters in a situation that says, oh yeah, the real Superman would never do that. The real Batman would never do that. And I thought back to that Man of Steel scene. I thought, oh yeah, that was the thing that freaked people out. It's like, okay, I'll top that. I'll make it worse.
Yeah.
we were just sitting there
our
kill a
jaws were
child.
dropped.
We were just like, oh my god.
I don't think I've been emotionally affected by a cartoon, especially a short like that.
Yeah.
Ever, possibly?
Well, I mean, and to be honest with you, the actor Benjamin Bratt, when he first got the script, he kind of didn't want to do it. He's like, I'm kind of uncomfortable with this.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had to walk him through it and say, okay, we're not just doing it just to be gratuitous, though a little bit we are.
Yeah.
But we said, yeah, it's not just going. He's not going to, do it and then just kind of go, okay, well that's that.
Yeah, that's that. Bye.
Save the day again.
some happy music plays.
I did have to kind of convince him that we're going to be honest about it and show that it affects Superman and everything as well.
Yeah. So leading off of that, one of the questions that we got you touched on it a bit, but what was kind of DC's reaction, especially to scenes like this, or just the general twist with these iconic characters?
They were pretty much on board with it early on. I mean, I initially pitched it as the concept came about because we were talking about revisiting Justice League as an animated series for television, and the mandate was we don't want to just do what we did before on the old Justice League show. We want to do something fresh and different. So that's kind of what got my head thinking about, how to reimagine these characters. So I pitched it as an animated series, and DC liked the idea a lot. They liked a lot of the concepts, but they thought, for an ongoing animated series, it's probably not the way we want to go with these characters. Mm-hmm. And then somebody said, yeah, but we could probably do it as a DTV, as a direct-to-video. Mm-hmm. And so then we were in business.
I got to imagine they, at this point, listen to ideas that you have. You've been around long enough.
I can always get a meeting. I don't just get a blank check. But but like I said, in DC's favor, once they were on board with the whole thing, they actually really liked. I mean, because they've been wanting to do an Elseworlds kind of, either one of our movies or. Actually, probably would only be one of our movies, but yeah, we've been talking about it for a long time, and there's always been a little bit of hesitation about going into alternate universes just because they don't want to send the signal out. They don't want people to think, oh, they're done with the regular characters. They think they're played out, so now they're going to have to bring in all these gimmicks.
Right.
And that's not the case at all. I mean, I think the original Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, they're robust as hell. We're going to be doing shows and movies with them for foreseeable future. There's a lot of life in them. But when this one came along, I think everybody kind of liked the idea of dipping our toes into the alternate universe waters.
And then so the movie will be direct to video and digital and stuff like that. What do you think about the distribution platform that Chronicles is taking? Have you seen anything that sticks out to you, like distributed on YouTube or what's the other one? Vimeo.
Yeah. I've seen a little bit of that stuff, my daughters, she watches shows on Netflix all the time. I think it's weird because it's kind of like the Wild West right now. There is just so much stuff out there. I mean, I can't even keep up with regular TV, much less all the different shows on cable, and now there's all this stuff online. But it's incredibly exciting because anytime we can go outside the normal boxes that we get squeezed into, there's always limitations for when we're doing stuff for TV. Here, it's kind of like I mean, one of the things that excites me about doing this show specifically is literally the format of it, the fact that they're actually just shorts. They're not 22-minute episodes. Yeah. When I first heard about it, I kind of went, man, I'm not sure how to even tell a story in 5 minutes or a little bit longer. But the more we started talking about it, it became just immensely exciting. It's just we can tell a complete story without having to do all the boring setup and all the other stuff. It's just cut down to the bone. And
it definitely does leave you wanting more. Every episode that I watched, I was just I could watch as many of these as they could make. So
yeah, they're not on long enough to wear out their welcome. Right?
Exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
Which is a lot of the case with the content on YouTube too, which is why it's great.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a step back and learn a little bit about Bruce Timm. We got a question.
I was born in a log cabin.
We got a question from Title Fight. She says, at what point did you decide to get into animation, or how did you achieve your art style? I think you can answer both those.
If I can. How did I get into animation? It wasn't a specific career goal. I trained myself. I have no formal art training, but I was always a big comic book fan, and I drew ever since I can remember. And the stuff I drew all the time was superheroes and monsters. And so my initial goal was to be a comic book artist. And I was, even though ever since I was very little, people always said, oh, what an amazing artist he is and everything. Yeah, for a 5-year-old. Yeah. So I'd always had that, but I was self-aware enough to look at my own stuff and go, oh yeah, I'm not at a professional level yet. So I hesitated to even, try to get into doing comics. But after my 1 year in college, after they asked me to leave, I went and worked in the I worked at Kmart for a couple of years, and it was not for me. I'll just say. Working.
And we all saw what Kmart did after you left. Just straight down.
But so I was kind of hating it and still wanting to do art for a living, and there was an animation studio pretty nearby, Filmation Studios. And I saw a flyer that they had up somewhere in town saying that we were looking for artists. So I said, oh, great. It's I may not be good enough to be a comic book artist, but I'm probably good enough to work at Filmation.
Is that how it used to work? They just put flyers up?
Yeah, this is pre-internet, dude.
Anytime you see a flyer now, you're like, well, that's
a scam.
Yeah.
So I applied there and showed them my portfolio. They weren't impressed. They gave me a test anyways, and I didn't get in. But a year later, the same thing happened, and that year I did get in. So. Wow. And then I kind of just drifted around from different studios, Don Bluth and Ralph Bakshi and Marvel and Filmation. And in the meantime, still kind of kept in the back of my head that I really wanted to do comics. Ultimately, I ended up at Warner Brothers, and then the Batman thing happened, and then here we are. Mm-hmm. How did I come up with the style? The style is kind of an amalgamation of lots of different things I've been interested in all my life. A lot of comic book influences. People like Jack Kirby, Harvey Kurtzman, Wally Wood. But specifically for animation, one of the things from working on all those other shows, when I was on G.I. Joe or He-Man, I always kind of felt that the shows weren't really designed to maximize the limited budgets that we had to work with. There was way too much detail, and they were focusing on the wrong things. So when the opportunity to do Batman came along, I kind of mixed together a couple different design theories that I'd been exposed to, specifically when I was working at the Don Bluth Studios. I was really heavily influenced by the Disney animation style, and specifically Sleeping Beauty, which most of it was designed by a brilliant animator named Mark Davis. It was a really graphic, really angular kind of style. And so I kind of took a little bit of that, and I took a little bit of Alex Toth's designs for Hanna-Barbera cartoons like Space Ghost and Birdman, and kind of mashed them together. And it kind of stripped everything down to like its essentials, and it worked.
Batman the Animated Series especially has this sort of like timeless, anachronistic sort of thing going, where it's like it looks kind of like it's the 30s, but also the 90s in other ways, and it's kind of set in its own world where technology only has progressed to what you need out of it. Are you really influenced by like 1930s Art Deco sort of styles?
Totally. I mean, I love that time period. I love like the 30s and 40s. I think the cars, the fashions, the architecture, the graphic design. It's like if you see a poster from the 1930s, it's immediately recognizable. And it's awesome. And then growing up watching old movies, specifically Universal horror movies. I just love that whole black and white kind of spooky kind of look. And then later on I was really into like film noir. So all of that stuff was like kind of like just there to be grabbed when I did the Batman show. It's like, how can we? That's a good way to go to make the show not look like G.I. Joe or Thundercats or anything else that was on. And then the time period. I mean, if I'd had my way, I probably would have made the show an actual period piece. I probably would have said, it's 1939. Batman stalks the streets of Gotham. But there was a little bit of pushback on that. A lot of people were going, period pieces don't really sell, and not only that, but it'll limit us in the kind of stories we can tell. So we made a compromise where it's basically we don't say what time it is or what year it is. The fashions, everything kind of looks old timey. But if we need a computer, we have computers, but they're made out of Bakelite instead of plastic or metal. And I mean, anytime we designed anything, we would say, okay, make it look like it was designed in 1938. So it was just kind of a cool way to set us apart, I think, from everything else that was out there.
Like Batman up to that point, I guess the Tim Burton movie had come out.
They had a little bit of that feel to them too.
But before that, like all of like the TV depiction of Batman, it was all in the daylight. It was all very brightly colored.
Right.
So I mean, was there pushback from DC about making it so just like always at night, always dark?
No, I mean DC was totally on board with what we wanted to do. They were never a problem. They supported us 100% every step of the way. Fox Network, who we did the show for, I mean, they liked the idea too. I mean, and thank God, I have to say, it was all. We made the show at the right time because the first Tim Burton Batman movie had come out. It was a huge hit. Part of the reason it was a big hit was everybody loved how it looked. They loved the feel of it. They loved the fact that it was dark.
Yeah.
Because that was like really revolutionary back then. I mean, it was like, you're right. Before that, it was anytime you said the word Batman, people automatically thought, Adam West.
Right.
So, so fortunately, following right up on that, Fox kept saying, "Oh no, we want the show to have that kind of dark, spooky look, and we would like it to be for adults." Of course, every time we would do something for adults, they'd go, "Oh no, you can't do that. It's a kid's show." So I mean, there was always a little bit of back and forth, but no, they were actually really supportive too. I mean, they were totally on board with the idea, early on. So.
Hey guys, taking a quick break from our interview with Bruce Timm to let you know about DraftKings. Earlier this year, DraftKings crowned the first ever fantasy golf millionaire.
What?
And with golf's second major starting next week, DraftKings is at it again with an event that's even bigger and better than before.
$2.5 million are up for grabs, and another millionaire will be made. So whether you're a total golf enthusiast or just looking to try another fantasy sport, DraftKings lets you experience the game in a brand new way by playing to win $1 million.
Just pick 6 golfers, pile up those points, and pick up your cash. That's it. This is the biggest one-week fantasy golf contest ever, and it begins with the tournament. So choose your players before Thursday's tee-off so you can experience the celebration of a lifetime on Sunday night.
Hurry to DraftKings.com right now and use promo code INSIDE, as in Inside Gaming, to play for free for a shot to become a millionaire. Enter INSIDE now at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com. Again, if you didn't hear me, DraftKings.com.
Okay, now let's get back to Bruce Timm, please.
This is from Josh Fetzer.
This guy sends us a lot of art. I think he drew this.
I think so, yeah.
He's a pretty good artist.
He asks, as someone who's been doing animation for a few years now, what kind of advice would you give to upcoming animators and character designers to stay motivated to become a better artist?
Well, the one thing I would say is, in terms of being motivated, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, we'll get back to that. One bit of advice I would tell anybody who wants to get into the idea of making art for a living is there's so many great tools out there nowadays, with technology. People have a tendency to rely on that stuff way too much. I mean, there are artists, I've seen literally artists who will literally take a Frank Frazetta painting and Photoshop an arm in a different position, and then they'll put it online on DeviantArt as if it was their own art. It's like, don't freaking do that. Don't rely on all the shortcuts that you can use with technology and with Photoshop and all these other programs. Really focus on learning what art means, the fundamental skills. Draw as much stuff by hand if you can, even if you're drawing it on a Cintiq. Use the tools when they're available. But it's like I said, it's just too easy these days to like literally grab a photograph that you find on the internet and manipulate it and say suddenly, oh, this is my art. It's like you're not going to impress anybody. When I'm hiring people, I'm looking for imagination. I'm looking for skill. I'm looking for versatility, and so that's the best bit of advice I could tell people is just draw it by hand as much as you can. There are literally artists. There's a program called SketchUp, which everybody uses, because backgrounds are a pain in the butt to draw. I don't blame them. I hate drawing backgrounds, but there are people who only know how to draw a background or a prop or a car with SketchUp. They literally, if you ask them to like put a piece of paper and pencil in front of them, they're clueless. And there's always something a little bit dead about SketchUp. And there have been artists that I've worked with that are just like, okay, I'm not working with you anymore because you can't draw anything if I turned your computer off. So, and in terms of being inspired to do better, we can all be better. There's some artists that they can't get any better.
Who would you say that if you could?
I don't know. There's lots. That's the willy-nilly box. We don't want to open it. But it's just, it's great. That's the great thing about the internet is that there is so much stuff out there. It's like, you can literally never be bored. If you're want to take a break and you just go on the internet, just I want to find something that'll give me a charge, get me inspired. There's so many avenues to explore. When I was a kid, it was all physical. It's like you had to like drive around town or ride your bike around town and visit used bookstores and comic book stores and dig through the boxes and trying to find something. It's like, oh hey, look, there's a Jack Kirby comic for 25 cents. But this stuff is all at your fingertips nowadays. So there should be no shortage of inspiration. And the thing is too, I actually found as an artist, actually working in the industry, actually in a workplace with other artists is like the best thing to keep you inspired, because if you're a freelancer or if you're just drawing all by yourself in your own room, it's so much easier to be inspired by walking over to somebody else's desk and seeing a piece of art that they physically just did and you go, wow, I could never do that, but I'm going to learn how. I'm going to somehow get up to that level. And all the shows I've worked on, Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, everything, it's always great to be surrounded by people who do things that I don't do. There are people who draw, better looking women or better looking cars or, better looking superhero costumes and stuff. So I'm constantly like, kind of mentally sponging off of them. So
Speaking of better looking women, found that Naughty and Nice book. I should have bought one so you can sign it, but maybe next time. Look it up. I don't think I could show any of it, but
I doubt it.
Great stuff. Let's go to another fan question. Oh, here's a good one. Komodo was taken. Asks, what was your inspiration when creating Harley Quinn and the Batman Beyond series? So we can start with Harley Quinn.
Okay. Well, Harley Quinn actually came out of the twisted mind of Paul Dini. She was originally conceived as a one-off villain henchmen. Paul just thought it would be kind of fun to because we were always like coming up with henchmen for all the different villains, and he thought, oh well, it'd be kind of fun to do like a kooky clown girl to be the Joker's henchwoman. And it sounded like a good idea. So I came up with this costume for her, and she kind of evolved once Arlene Sorkin came in and did her voice. We all kind of went, wow, that's like dead on. That's perfect. Really appealing character. But again, we didn't really think more about it. We moved on to other episodes. And then when the animation for that show came back and we actually saw her, come to life, we're like, oh, there's something there. And so we just kept, bringing her back. And even though there was some hesitation on our part, it's like, oh, that kind of really changes the Joker if he's got a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because we were kind of at that point trying to keep the Joker pretty straight, even though he's silly and funny. But at the same time, we still wanted to make sure that he still seemed like a genuine threat to Batman, that he was a psychotic maniac. And we thought that maybe the constant girlfriend would water him down a little bit. But she was just irresistible. We couldn't help it.
And then even I mean, that's not so far in the past, but even then there's not this constant feedback stream like you have on the internet. When was it that you realized, I know when you saw the animation that you were like, this is something here,
yeah.
But when was the first time you saw the fan reaction to everyone kind of gravitating to that character specifically? Because it's become one of a very iconic character in the Batman universe.
I don't know. Yeah, because you're right. We didn't have the internet back then. We didn't
like a Comic-Con or
we didn't
something
get fan mail or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we just kept bringing her back because we liked her.
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, just from going to cons and stuff, we would start noticing that, there's a lot of girls dressed up like Harley. And nowadays, it's insane. I mean, it's constantly growing. I mean, this last show I was at was in Seattle, and I swear every fifth girl that came by the booth was dressed like Harley, whether it was like steampunk Harley or classic Harley or sucker punch Harley or whatever. It was just like it was a non-ending stream of Harleys. So
what do you think about Margot Robbie?
I think she's awesome. I think it's I mean, when I first heard that she was cast, I thought, wow, that's great, because she's gorgeous, she's a really good actress, she's fun, and so far everything I've seen of her in the costume, I think, that's you're like almost there. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we'll wait and see what the rest of the movie's like, but I think she's kind of a home run so far. So we'll see.
Yeah. And then Batman Beyond, I guess.
Right.
The inspiration behind that.
That came about because at the time we were working on our second Batman series, where we basically redesigned the entire world and redesigned all the characters, and we were just kind of from a design standpoint, it was kind of like a shot in the arm to us. We kind of thought, wow, this is actually better even than the original show, and we were really excited about it. We liked where the stories were going. We met with Jamie Kellner, who was the head of Kids WB, and he was very complimentary about the show. He goes, yeah, we really like it. We like what you guys are doing, but we want to try something different. And we're like, okay, where's this going? And then he said the words, teenage Batman. And we're all just trying to keep a straight face. Yeah, we're all just kind of going inside. We're going, no.
Yeah.
But I think the big inspiration, I think, from Jamie's standpoint was at the time the Kids WB was, or the whole WB network was kind of struggling. The only show that had really gotten any traction buzz-wise was Buffy. Mm-hmm. And so I think he was trying to turn Batman into Buffy, in retrospect.
Yeah.
But I mean, actually, even at the time, I mean, when we were, so the words teenage Batman, we're kind of just frantically trying to, okay, how do we get out of this meeting alive before we say something really bad? And just on the spot, we started just spinning ideas like, okay, well, if it was in the future and Batman got too old to be Batman, and then he has an apprentice that he kind of passes the torch onto, and Jamie Kellner loved that idea. He loved the whole mentor idea because I think it reminded him of Buffy. He was immediately going, Bruce Wayne is Giles, and
plus the passing of the torch is always nice for the
loved
fans
that
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean at that meeting, I remember saying it was like the old samurai handing his sword off to his apprentice samurai, and Jamie really liked that idea. So we walked out of that meeting kind of not wanting to do the show. We just kind of we're just saying whatever we could just to keep going. And then we actually had to sit down and actually do the show. And the more we talked about it, we actually started getting excited about the possibilities of it, the idea of setting it in the future. It was going to give a whole different feel to the show, be a lot more science fiction oriented. And even though we loved the current Batman show that we were doing, pretty soon we kind of fell in love with the Batman Beyond idea and the idea of kind of reinventing the whole world, and we really liked the Terry character, and we liked old grumpy Bruce Wayne was really cool. So we thought there was a lot of possibilities there, and away we went.
Oh yeah, here's a good one from Exceptionalish. Asks, what's one of your favorite story arcs from DC that hasn't been featured in TV or film yet, or maybe something that you would like to do in the future, possibly, or.
God, that's a tough one because I've been really lucky. I kind of have gotten through most of my bucket list. I mean, we did Batman Year One, we did, the Dark Knight Returns. Those were kind of like the big gets that we actually got. So I don't know if there's any specific storyline or arc or graphic novel or anything that I'm dying to do. There's a lot of stuff out there that I think has the potential to make a really good movie. I mentioned Gotham by Gaslight. We actually talked about possibly doing an adaptation of that someday. Superman Red Sun is another Elseworlds, but it's a great story.
Soviet Superman.
Soviet Superman that's a really, really great story. I would probably love to take a crack at that one day. So
very cool. And then we have one more for the Gods and Monsters specifics. Like I said, this will be airing after it's all been released. Okay. How do you think, or how do you hope that the core fans are going to react to this, and even the movie, not just the Chronicles?
Right. Well, obviously, I hope that people like it and
that'd be good.
Yeah, and buy lots and lots and lots of copies of the DVD and watch the shorts over and over and over again and hit the like button and all that stuff. But I mean. This sounds really arrogant, but I've kind of gotten to the point in my career where I don't really worry so much about what the fan reaction is going to be like, because you can't predict it. You never can predict it. Yeah. Things that I think are kind of, okay, that's not my best work, but people love it. And then there's stuff that I think, oh yeah, I'm really proud of that, and then they don't buy it. And it's like, so you really can't tell.
And you don't want their opinion to really sway what your artistic vision is at all.
I never do. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's so funny because you can read 15 comments from people who love it, and then there's one guy who will say something really, really nasty and rip it apart. I usually just brush that stuff off, but occasionally they'll say something that I go, oh yeah, he's kind of right. That was kind of weak. It's it's a good show, but that's a good point, whatever. Actually, it was funny. I had a meeting with Clive Barker, of all people, about 10 years ago. And he was telling me he does exactly the same thing. He was like, yeah, I was on Amazon and this guy was giving me a harsh review, and I'm like, Clive Barker gives a crap about Amazon reviews? It's really? Yeah. But I've gotten used to it to the point I don't get so bent out of shape if somebody gives me a really negative comment. But I never let it influence me. It's because you can't. Because it's just one person on the internet, or even if it's 5 people, it's not a representation.
Not at all.
Of reality or the populace.
And I'm sure that you've been doing this long enough to where it's you put out your best work and you know that people are going to enjoy it based on everything that you've done so far. You kind of have the I know how to do the storyline.
Well, I got this.
I'm pretty sure I got this.
The other thing is that people are always a little bit resistant to change at first.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to Batman Beyond, we knew people were going to hate Batman Beyond on sight.
Yeah.
Just the minute they heard the words Teenage Batman, they were going to be just like us. They were going to say, hell no, Same thing when we did Justice League Unlimited. We did the first 2 seasons of Justice League. The second season, by that point, people really loved the show, and then we pulled the rug out from under them and changed the show, and we added rock music and all this stuff. And I knew the minute we started doing that, we would laugh about it. We go, man, people are going to hate this. They're just going to hate it, but they're going to still watch it.
Yeah,
they're going to watch it just so they can hate it.
Yeah,
and then eventually they're going to learn to like it. So,
well, especially with these the Chronicles episodes in particular, it's just so visceral up front, and you get classic characters in pretty much every single one of the episodes. So it's very. It hooks you right away, so I think it's going to do just great. And they're on Machinima right now. You can watch them right now. So
now.
We will be linking them in the description below. And you've already seen them. If you're watching this, you've already watched them.
I hope you
and I'm
should.
sure that you love them.
But go watch them again.
Yeah, watch them 5 times.
Hit that like button. Really helps.
And then buy the DVD.
Oh yeah, do that. That's a good idea.
You're working on season 2 already, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch whole bunch of, there's Lady Flash and
Yeah, Lady Flash and
there's like a Green Lantern in
Flash
there, too.
Grodd. Yeah, no, there's a I mean, I'm so glad that we're actually getting to do more story set in this universe, because I mean, there was the minute we started talking about it, we had all these different ideas of things that we wanted to do, and there was only so much that we could squeeze into the movie. I mean, there's still a lot of DC Easter eggs throughout the entire movie, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. And so then we got to do the 3 shorts, and then we got to do some more other weird, crazy stuff with some pre-existing characters. So to be able to like do an entire season of a show set in this universe, it's just been like, oh great, we'll do this and we'll do that, and then oh that's even better. We'll so yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Just mixing our palette in weird different ways. Sometimes it's going to come out looking like mud, and sometimes it's going to look like something
Well, you get
really
this
cool.
just very special, unique opportunity to mess with an entire universe of like 80 years worth of material.
Oh yeah. Well, we will never run out of story material. Never. So.
Well, very cool. Thanks for joining us today. And
bet, guys.
like I said, we're already huge fans of it. We've seen it. By now, they've seen it, and I'm sure they're going to go back and watch it over again now.
Right on.
So thank you so much.
You bet, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.